Bob Loblaw says he can only stick around for a couple hours, so we better get started. Thank you, my friend. A lot of good people in the house already. CyberDoc Dan Boyd, M50 V8, Alex A, Gene Ritchie from Chino Valley, Arizona, 74 and sunny. I've got let's see here. It's only in the 60s here, 66, 67-ish, and it's raining. It's the first rain we've had in about a month and a half. So we could use the rain. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we got a full inch of rain today and it just soaked in immediately and just made no impact in terms of like flooding or puddles or any of that kind of stuff. Daniel Kester's in the house, James Chisholm as well. Locutus from Jersey in the Channel Islands. I love the exotic locations, and I consider the Channel Islands exotic. Manuel Guerra, 85 in Nashville and hot. I was in Nashville a couple months ago on my way back from visiting my friend Ed Bolian over in Georgia. Took a little side route over to visit some friends. And while there, took in some scenery because I'd never been to Nashville before. But just a heads up, if you are a subscriber to VinWiki, you'll know this. But if you're not, you should know this. One of the videos I shot with Ed is going to go live tomorrow morning on his channel, he tells me. So I'll be competing with myself when I put up my own video. Funny how that works. DePaul, 31. Good afternoon, Steve and all. Two left thumbs. First one I've caught so early. Jake Lyon. Morning, Steve. Shoy. Checking for Sydney, Montana. Andreas, hi from Luleå, Sweden. JJ, Paul, CyberDoc. Oh, Paul's checking from Belgium, not exotic. No, Belgium is exotic from our viewpoint. Unless you mean like Belgium, Ohio or something, which I wouldn't be surprised if there is one. Duncan Campbell says it's dark where he is. Of course, that'd be Australia. Good morning. And good morning to you, my friend. MHOA is 297K. That'd be Kelvin and partly sunny in Denver, Colorado. 858 Bill says, Dagnabbit, 1 minute late. And yeah, according to my math, you are a minute late, but that's okay. It's only when you stroll into class really late that you should get in trouble. School Bus Mike went to Gilmore this weekend for Model A days, 352 miles driving my 1931 two-door sedan. And I think it's two-door as opposed to the name, like the name two-door as opposed to two-door. But very cool. I've been to Gilmore many times. I've not seen that particular get-together they have there for the Model A's. That is really cool. Really cool. Dr. Rick, Steve, great to see you today. And to you, my friend. Richard Thomas, good night, John Boy. Chainsaw season. Hey, is it ever not chainsaw season? Richard Ockman, hello, all from San Francisco. Jay Klein, hey, Steve. Hey, Jay. Mark Miller, happy Sunday. Yo, sup? Taste of Belgium in Ohio, but no actual Belgium, Ohio. Okay. CyberDoc says chainsaws and hang gliding do not mix. It sounds like something that you have to try out to determine. But I can't imagine an opportunity where you'd want to do that. But I suppose. Secret Voice. I don't attend live. I tend to be a disruption. Great channel of the women. Oh, I'm sorry, the woman at the end. I mean, there's women in here that I didn't know about. Referring, of course, to Heather, the Canadian robot lady. I sent her a note. I don't know if she'll be here today or not. I just double check because she does occasionally work on Sundays. G Keyman 565. Do you use any other streaming software? No, I don't. I actually have the OBS. I've just never used it. I used it a while back, and it kind of something I just never got into. I should because it'll allow me to put other stuff on the screen, which I don't do. So Mexican Spec. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, my friend. And today we're drinking out of the green cup again. They just rotate through. I've got 4 different colors, and the hydration when I get to it is going to be half Gatorade, again, the frost colored, and half water. So Secret Voices, if I could have anything useful, I'll stop by. Yeah, just jump in anytime. Jump in any. Usefulness is not a requirement. Trust me. Marty Adams of Southwestern Wisconsin. Sub GR77 checking in from the Flint, Michigan area. I want to remind you that Zagnuts rule. Are you talking about the candy bar? Don't take us down that rabbit hole. Chuck Whitehead going a little late here, just finished cooking lunch. I mean, I suppose I always think of lunch as the meal that you make But I guess I don't know why these weird distinctions in my head. 858 Bill, Steve, per the video and flock cameras violating the Fourth Amendment, do the DUI checkpoints also skirt the Fourth? Well, you know, one of the issues we have is I believe the Supreme Court's ruled on DUI checkpoints. And I know that some states have ruled on it, and they've always addressed them as a Fourth Amendment thing. And I believe they've gotten around it by saying that just to randomly check cars going by is not so burdensome as to violate the Fourth. But there's a lot of arguments on that. So believe in yourself. Hello, Steve from Napanee, Ontario, Canada, and to you, my friend. Manhattan Beach, California, mountain property. I love Manhattan Beach. Spent time in Los Angeles doing law school for 2 years. Went to the beach often and would go to Manhattan Beach. I think, don't get me wrong, I was at many of the beaches up and down there, Hermosa and so on. But Manhattan Beach to me was the best combination of a beautiful beach. There's a nice pier. The stores and shops nearby were always very nice. And then just a lot of cool people hanging out. So I liked Manhattan Beach. Mark Miller says, yes, lunchtime, make a sandwich. Pissed off handicap guy, more rain in the UP of Michigan. What part of Upper Peninsula are you in? As some of you may have caught, I was in the Upper Peninsula last week. I'll tell that story one of these days. But I stopped at Lehto's Pasties on the way up and had a pasty. Didn't stop on the way back only because of the timing of it. I won't eat there just for the fun of it. It's got to be either lunch or dinner time. And when I was up there, beautiful weather. And in fact, I stopped by, and I don't have a photograph. I'm mad at myself. I stopped by. There's a bar in Alston, Michigan called the Church in the Valley. And they occasionally have live acts. There were no live acts when I stopped by, but it's a bar that's been in that same location for probably 70 or 80 years at the end of the street my grandmother used to live on. And I remember as a child going by it was called Tommy's Bar. And I know people had been in there. My brothers had been in there from time to time, just hanging out. And I dropped in there last week. Had never been in the building. Had known about the building for, like I said, my entire life because it was always there. So, D Wood, LO, Stephen Company. Happy Sunday to all. 911 Arrow. Your thumbnail is concerning with symbolism. Which thumbnail? The one I posted for this video where I got my hand up against my face, or the thumbnail that says Lehto's Law? I need to know more. Locutus, any more dogs after Milo and Wolfie? No, I never did. I considered it, but never did. Mountain Property, love your content. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, pissed off handicap guy. I'm near Iron River and have property in Crystal Falls. So you're over in the western end. I've been through Crystal Falls many times. Iron River, Ironwood, Iron Mountain are the iron cities over on the on the left end of the Upper Peninsula. I know the area quite well. In fact, one of the last times I was over that way, I was driving back very early in the morning. I saw a bear with two cubs run across the road in front of me. Very, very cool. Stop spam and damn. Hello from Virginia. Not sure if I'm saying that correctly. V48 hand signs. I've actually had people send me very, very serious emails saying, Steve, you've got to keep your hands off camera because you are unknowingly flashing satanic and devil symbols. And the devil is using you as his vessel to communicate to. I'm like, to who? Wouldn't I know this? Blah, blah, blah. Dachshund could solve your woodchuck problem. I'm curious about that because, I've seen woodchucks that could chew up and spit out a dachshund without even thinking twice about it. And I've known some dachshunds that were real wimpy. So the question is, would a dachshund really take on a woodchuck like in an open field or just when they got him trapped down in their little hole in the ground? So Duncan Campbell asks, how is the woodchuck? Have not seen him in a while. He was out a couple times about a week and a half ago. So stop spamming him. How did you get interested in murder houses? Well, believe it or not, my publisher contacted me, an editor there said, I have an idea for a book, American Murder Houses. And the rest, as they say, is history. And I've still got some around here somewhere. Another story altogether. Oh, pissed off handicapped guy lives in an old bar. Cool. Very cool. Is it haunted by any chance? Cyberdocs and Steve's hand signals convinced me to buy a motorcycle. What you're supposed to say is Steve's hand signals convinced me to stop going to church. Michael Krause, you should have said no, not unknowingly. I actually did a video, and I've had people say, Steve, that person who sent you that email was probably sincere. And I said, I understand that, but if they sincerely think I don't know what my hands are doing, like idle hands of the devil's workshop, but it's not like he can take them over and make them like start doing like devil sign language without me knowing about it. And besides, wouldn't I get someone contacting me going, "Hey, Steve, thanks for that, man. I couldn't get a hold of Satan the other day, but I started watching your videos." I'm, I'm sorry. I can't. The update in the Turban Car book is still coming down the road. Somebody asked that. I missed it, but I will get back. I will, as soon as I know, I'll let you know. D Wood says, wait and play the chat backwards. Look for the secret messages. There you go. Jerry Madison, is that your natural hair color? I'm only going to address this because I've had people ask that before. My natural hair color is blonde. It depends how much time I spend in the sun, but this has got hairspray in it. But quite often it's blonder than this. And a couple of years ago, I used a thumbnail where my hair was really, really blonde. And I got all kinds of people going, "Hey, it looks stupid when you bleach your hair like that. Stop bleaching your hair, dummy." I can't say the second word. I've never bleached my hair my entire life. The hair on my arms, likewise, blonde. Eyebrows, blonde. It would take a lot of work to actually like dunk your body and bleach everything every few days. So there you go. Mexican spec. Steve doesn't strike me as a guy that wastes his time coloring his hair. Oh, I just do the frosted tips. Oh, School Bus Mike, do you have any plans to write any other books on other Michigan history topics? Sort of. I've got some ideas. Matthias, have you got the postcard or the tracking code for the shirt? No, I've not gotten anything yet. Although it's been a couple days. If it came in lately, I wouldn't know, but I'll check soon. James Tremelli says, I think someone's been watching Army of Darkness a little bit too often. It's not me 07. My hair was that color for 50 plus years, but now it's brown and silvery, mostly brown, but soon the silver will take over. I have, as I've mentioned before, older brothers. I was the youngest of 6 boys. One is now passed. And my older brothers, for the most part, all have the same color hair as I do. The only difference amongst us is how thick the hair is or whether the hairline's moved at all, which does happen. 858 Bill says you have a Viper and a Cobra. The logical next step is track days. Track days. Problem I always have is that I can only drive one at a time. And occasionally I go places and someone goes, I thought you had a, and I'm like, yeah, I do. It's at home. Oh, I wish you brought that one. Sometimes I wish I did. Drewski says, greetings from Minnesota. Our weather will be yours tomorrow if the wind is from the west. Yeah, I follow Michigan Storm Chasers on Facebook, and they claim that we're going to get some nasty stuff soon with some heavy winds. So maybe that's what they're talking about. Clayman, oh, did you ever do any follow-up on the FedEx driver who ran over the stake in your driveway? I was just curious because I work for FedEx and quality assurance. No, but a FedEx driver did deliver something to my house the other day, and my first thought was, he's going to come up and yell at me, but he actually had a package. So, oh boy, Padre, I tried Sun In on my hair. Remember Sun In? That was one of those things they sold back in like the 70s, and they said you spritz it in your hair and you go out in the sun and it'll lighten your hair. And I seem to recall knowing some girls, and I can call them that because I was in school at the time. We did not call our classmates women. And I knew girls who tried that. I'm not exactly sure what kind of results they got, but Yesem says, when I was 14, my hair changed from your color to dark brown. I've known people who had blondish hair when they're really little and they grew out of it, but 14 seems a little late. So Joe Wilk says the YouTube algorithm has been suggesting some of your oldies but goodies on some classic topics, and I know it's an oldie because you aren't in a T-shirt. There is, for those of you who are into YouTube or YouTube creators yourselves, there's been a lot of controversy the last few months. A lot of numbers are down, and people talk about that. But one of the things that has changed, is that YouTube is recommending older videos. I've heard that also, but I've also seen it where I can see what the top 10 videos are of mine at any given time, like the last 7 days. And there's routinely one or two old videos, and they move around. Like it's not always the same old video. So, yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I got a couple old videos that've got several million views. So, in fact, I should point this out. I'm about to break 600,000 subscribers. I'm at 599, 587. So I've got to pick up 400 and I'm busy, man. 413 subs, and I'll have 600,000. So forgive me for doing this. I'm just going to do this the one time and one time only. If you are not subscribed to my main channel, Lehto's Law, please consider subscribing right now, because I'd like to break 600,000. With my luck, it'll happen overnight, and I'll miss the odometer rolling over. So, Yesem says YouTube should have a better thing, not an algorithm. Well, an algorithm can both be good or bad. It depends on how you set the algorithm to work. What is it going to reward? Dan Boyd says, yeah, 413 would be the max wedge. The max wedge. Aaron Freeman, are you wearing a tee under that sweater? This is not a sweater. This is a t-shirt. I wear t-shirts like they're a uniform. So Ian W, done, subscribed. Okay, hang on a second. Let me check. Ooh, I picked up a few subscribers. 591, 599, 591. So there you go. It's not me. 07 points out that subscribing is free. Bob Kerflugan says the decrease in views has been linked with desktop users using ad blockers not being counted. There's a debate on that. So I'm not sure how true that is, but I'm I'm not going to get into the nuances of behind the scenes on YouTube here. So Mike Leah says my hair is turning white. As long as that doesn't happen overnight. You always hear that. Joe Donaldson says fall begins on 9/21. Interestingly, and I screen grabbed this so that I would actually be able to tell you. I knew somebody was going to question. According to the Detroit Free Press, the fall equinox, marking the season's formal astronomical start, is Monday, September 22nd, according to the Old Farmer's Almanac. So that is, as of tomorrow, according to the Farmer's Almanac, according to the Detroit Free Press. So it's hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay. So, oh boy. Fatty Butterpants says we may always remember where we were when Steve hit 600,000. Scott Argyle's checking in from the Oregon coast. SKS Hugo says that the old videos might be getting recommended due to YouTube not saving our entire history anymore. I can't imagine. Are they running out of storage space? Can you imagine? Oh, boy. Well, I mean, the funny thing is that I look at some of the old videos and I look at how many views they're getting, and they're getting so many views. It's like, if it's outperforming my new videos, good for it, Oh. Johnny Quest, if you can't trust a farmer, who can you trust? Well, certainly you can trust the Farmer's Almanac. Although I've heard people say that you shouldn't rely on it for scientific information. Oh, Chaos by Lannox says it annoys me how YouTube forgets I already watched something last year. That bothers me too because there are a few people I've been following for years, and I see a video and I'm like, oh, and it doesn't show that I've watched it. I click and I'm like, I've watched this already. I know I have. Padres says the fall equinox is in 24 hours at 2:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Blah, blah, blah. Don't get me started on the electric cost of data centers and AI. What about crypto mining centers? Bob Kerflugan says my son, Harrison, reminded me to say checking in from Gaylord, Michigan. I drove through Gaylord last week on my way back from the Upper Peninsula. Prodigal Strangers got 2 subs to his channel on YouTube. How often do you post? Matt Atwar, you ever rewatch a video because they changed the title and you realize halfway through? I have not, but I do know people who do that, and it's to me it's real sketchy because there are going to be people out there who hang on, 5.99, 5.96. I'll stop doing that now. But I've seen people who do that where they post a video with a title and a thumbnail, and it's not performing well enough, I guess. So they very quickly they swap it out for new ones. And of course, they swap it out for crazy and crazier stuff. You know, it starts out being um, this works to you won't believe the secret they don't want you to know, which might kill you, by the way. So Christine Gagnon says daylight will not return until March 22nd, 2026. Dark out at 4 p.m. Thank goodness for holiday lights, a few months more pleasant atmosphere and environment. School buses leave and return in the dark. Are you in Alaska or something? Padres says I have 8 subs and never posted anything. It's not me 07 has 12 subs. Scott Summers, drive on 75, but you can't drive on 23. It depends on where I'm going, what kind of time I've got. But yeah, driving down the coast of Michigan from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, the coast to the lower, does not actually work efficiently for me. Jerry Dodge, how many Gatorades have you had today? Well, I've got one in here, but I haven't started it yet. So give me a minute. Dan Boyd, I'd have been angry as a kid if I got out of school at dusk. Um, I had an issue like that. I rode in a carpool. Somewhere along the line, one of the carpool drivers was a teacher. So I didn't get to leave school until the teacher left. And by the time I got home, it was dark. That was annoying. Christine Gagnon is in New England. In New England. The northern part of New England? Hattie Langford wants to know about Nintendo patents, not not patients. I saw the first post. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're treating people now? Fatty McButterpants, I never watch channels again when they have misleading titles. Yeah, it's a choice you have to make as a creator. Do you do clickbait where you'll get one view now, but you might anger somebody? And I mean, I find myself marking channels all the time. Do not recommend this channel. Do not recommend this channel because I got suckered in one time. Blah blah blah. I rode my bike to school. Didn't need the bus. Did you ride it up hills both ways in the snow? Just kidding. Never got to ride my bike to school. Never worked out for me that way. River Dreams, did you kayak or canoe this season? I've got a canoe, but I did not get it out this year. And it's too late now. Although a couple of years ago, I took it out in the fall and I went up and down the Tequamanon River a little bit in the fall, but the colors hadn't quite changed yet. So it was nice, but it wasn't as nice as it could have been. Padre, I never subbed to channels that beg for subs and likes before I watched the video. I actually, as I've jokingly said momentarily ago, that I don't ask people to subscribe. I don't ask for thumbs ups. And the reason I don't is that I worked in radio for years. And it always bothered me when disc jockeys appeared to be like begging or pleading for stuff. I want to listen. I don't want to do anything. And if it's available, I might do it. But when people start bugging you and bugging you, that doesn't sit well with me. And so I have a hard time coming on and going, hey, give me a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, and then also, mark the bell so you get, notifications. And I mean, there's actually a guy I watch a lot of his videos, and he does it in every single video, and I I haven't subscribed as a result. Oh boy. Pa Rump Mike, Scotty Kilmer's the king of clickbait videos. You're not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that from many people. This is the worst car ever. Next day. This is the worst car ever. Now, you might say, but Steve, maybe he discovered a worse car the second day. But when you see the videos next to each other and they all say, this is the worst car, worst, you're like, they can't all be the worst, can they? So there's a few others out there, too, that do that. Moon Invader checking in from Blue Hill, Maine. Never heard of it, but I like cool sounding names like Blue Hill. Like, what makes it blue? Is that short for Blueberry Hill? Prodigal Stranger says, by the way, do not buy an RV. Yeah, that's just general life advice, Matthew Murray, thanks, Steve. Love ya. Love ya. I love you too. I do. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really do. And if you could like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Oh boy. 858 Bill says, my favorite videos to watch are reaction videos or channels where younger folk hear old classic music for the first time, or people seeing movies for the first time. And, I've watched a few of those, and then I discovered that they're all doing the exact same things. Like the second one of them did it, then everybody else could react to it. And I'm like, wait. And sometimes I can understand it, but sometimes I'm like, I like it better. Like, for instance, like when Rick Beato, who's a musical producer and musician, breaks down a video into plain English and says, here's why this song is good. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he explains it in a way I'm like, that makes sense. And I've also seen there's a woman, I forgot her name, voice is in the title. And I think she sings opera, but she will listen to like Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody and then explain how it sounds to her as a trained classical singer. And I find those interesting. But when it's just some guy who's like, I've never heard the song before, I'm going to listen to it for the first time, I'm like, wow, I never heard. Oh, how weird. It's like, wait, you guys don't have radio stations where you live? No, Steve, no one listens to the radio anymore. Come on. I mean, if you haven't heard Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison yet, Bob Kerflugen says, I like watching tribal people eating American food. Has somebody ever brought like a Big Mac and some fries into like the jungles and found some tribe that's out of contact with Western civilization? Said, here, eat this. And if so, what would they do? Charismatic voice, Gordon 861. Yes, charismatic voice. That is her. Derek Boardman, I love Rick Beato. Dan Boyd, are you familiar with Ellis Feaster's channel? Tons and tons of old sound check. You mean air checks on the radio? No, I'm not familiar with that. No. Stop spamming them. Yes, charismatic voice. That is correct. It rings a bell. Is the Canadian robot lady going to be in today? I did send her a note. She did not respond back, so I'm guessing she's working because normally she responds back one way or the other unless she's actually at work. So, Chuck Whitehead, they've never heard of YouTube music. What's really scary is occasionally I'll hear a song like in a movie soundtrack or in a commercial or something, and I'll go, "That's a cool song," and I'll figure out what it's called and I'll look it up. It's been on YouTube for 14 years. It's got 3 billion views. I'm like, wait. How did I not ever hear of that song? And that does happen. It does happen, but the question is, are you adding anything to it other than just going, "Ooh, wow. Oh, I didn't hear where'd that come from?" So Dan Boyd, yes, air checks. Air checks. That's what they call it when you record somebody off the radio. Solid Pixel says the charismatic voice, her name is Elizabeth Zaroff. Zaroff. Hattie Langford says around half the people watching have liked this live stream. Not a bad ratio. I'm showing about 110 right now in the thumbs ups, but I don't know how often that updates while we're talking here. Bob Kerflugen, I've not seen them try McDonald's. My favorites are the young kids eating candy for the first time. Oh, can you imagine? You've never had sugar before, like processed sugar. Here, have some sweet tarts. Oh, probably probably makes the kids ill within like an hour. Yeah, Paul Harris says you could do a reaction video to my channel and go, yeah, I'm gonna listen to Steve Lehto. Huh. Okay, what I'm hearing him say is blah 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 blah. Oh, MH08 hit the thumbs up button since I insisted. Jerry Dodge, Europeans react to American channels. My good friend David Domini Fowler, and I can tell you this because he put this on his own Facebook page. He's the guitar player in Australian Pink Floyd, and they had a show scheduled in Connecticut, I believe, and he wound up in the hospital with a kidney stone, and they had to cancel a show because of that. And I sent him a note because he was doing a show on Friday near Boston, and a friend of mine was going to see him, and I wanted to see if I could get these two guys to meet each other because they're both musicians. So I sent David a note and said, "Hey, David, how's it going? I understand you guys just canceled a show. What's going on?" In the news, it didn't say, it just said a show canceled. And he goes, "Yeah, it's my fault." And he sent me a picture of himself, which he posted later on Facebook, in a hospital gown. He goes, "I'm in the hospital with a kidney stone." But by the next day, he was out and ready to play, and they made the show. They did get to the show. But he just hit 10,000 subscribers on his channel. 10,000 subscribers. He talks a lot about music production, recording studios, and so on. And in his video, he goes, "These are the top 10 tips I'll give you if you're running a recording studio." And he used a tip in there, which is almost identical to a tip I give students in my trial practice class back when I used to actually teach trial practice in law school. So I was thinking about doing a reaction video to his thing, and then asking him if he wanted to watch mine and maybe do another, and we could probably get a little thing going back and forth. So we'll see about that. Oh boy. JR says I couldn't believe it yesterday. A 49-year-old staff member never heard of Gordon Lightfoot, nor had heard of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I had to play it for her. Well, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald did chart. It did hit the top 40. So if you're around at that time, you should have heard it as being on the radio. It's one of those songs that kind of disappeared quickly in terms of it doesn't show up in the rotation of most oldies stations because it's so specific of a topic. But if you're in the Midwest, that was huge news for about a year because, of course, the ship sank, and then they had all kinds of memorials, and they had all kinds of hearings and all kinds of stuff. And of course, it's a big deal right now because of anniversaries and so on. So Jay Klein says kidney stones suck. I've never had one. I've never had one, but I know people who have, and everybody tells me about it. They go, "Yeah, it's it's pretty bad." The prodigal stranger says they say passing a kidney stone is as close to the pain of childbirth as a man can get. I've heard that also. In fact, somebody said that to me just the other day. And I'm like, okay. Oh, boy. Fatic Butterpants says a lot of the reaction channels are failed actors, and it shows. Yeah, I've just seen a bunch that just said, I'm watching. Okay, it's got to be entertaining. The fact that it entertains you to listen to a song for the first time doesn't mean it's entertaining for me to watch you listen to the song for the first time. You follow me? So Belio says, "Do you get a parade at 600,000 subs?" No, you get nothing. You get nothing. The plaque you get. Oh, we just broke 599,601. So 399 more to go. When you get to 100,000, they give you a plaque. When you get to 1,000,000, you get a plaque. Well, the first one's obviously easier to get to than the second one is. So it's going to be a little while. Janice Ellery is checking in from Fort Lauderdale. Dig 5050 says, "I like seeing the model of the Chrysler Turbine car in the background of your normal studio. I saw one of those in my youth at a bank in Toledo, Ohio with my father." Are we talking about approximately 1964, 65? Interestingly, I've met a lot of people who saw them back in the day. And if they tell me what city they were in and approximately when it was, there's a list of them. You can look them up and see where they were, because they lent those cars out all over the lower 48. So you can figure that out. And I've had people do that and go, "Yeah, it's like August 1964." And I look it up and there it is. That person had one right then and there. So that explains it. Yeah, say, "You get nothing. Good day, sir." John Michael Karma just did the Google thing. Wreck the Edmund Fitzgerald made it to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. I believe it was kept out of the number 1 spot by Disco Duck by Rick Dees. I could be wrong, but I think that's correct. Dimebag Coin says, "And you only get your plaque if they like your channel. If they don't like your channel, there's no plaque, no matter what numbers you got." I've heard that before. And the weird thing is, when I hit 100,000, I didn't get the plaque till I was like 150. And I got this very, very nice letter with it. It says, "Congratulations." And I'm like, really slow processing, or it took a while? Yeah, Dan Boyd never got to see a turbine in the wild, born in 66. And Dig 50 says, yes, early 1960s. River Dreams, greetings from Toledo and the Maumee River, where I can't see the bottom. Is that because of Campbell's soup? Recent video did. MH08 says Disco Duck sucked more than disco. But the point behind Disco Duck, Rick Dees was a disc jockey. And he recorded that song as a joke, and it became a hit. And, there's musicians out there who have tried their entire careers and couldn't get a number 1 song. And the song was stupid. I believe the official name of the band was Rick Dees and his cast of idiots. So oh boy. MB, when do you put your muscle cars away for the winter? Well, I don't do anything that disables them in that sense. I put them they're in a heated environment, covered and on trickle chargers, and I go up periodically, do play with them. But right now, I mean, I drove one of them Monday. I would have driven one yesterday, but I went someplace else and didn't have time when I got back. But it's raining today, so I won't drive one today. But I'll probably drive them next week, but we'll see. Yeah, Belios is Rick Dees, the morning DJ in Memphis, WHBQ, Memphis. And when I was growing up, we listened to him every day on the way to school. Rick Dees later went to KIIS Los Angeles for many years and was considered to be one of the best DJs in America in terms of an all-purpose, general audience morning show disc jockey. He was good. He was very, very good. You'd see ads in radio records and it would say, "Are you the next Rick Dees?" That was shorthand for "Are you that good?" And I heard air checks of when he was on the air in Memphis. That's why I know about WHBQ. And the show was insanely funny for the time it was. And he did voices. He did other people in the studio. They were all funny. It was bam, 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 bam. It was so entertaining and so fast paced that you were waiting for the songs to end so you could hear what he was going to do next. I mean, it was that good. And I know a lot of radio stations I've listened to where you wish they'd shut up and play more music. So DePaul 31 says he saw the turbine car at the 1964 New York World's Fair. The line was too long to wait to get a ride in it. And by the way, to get a ride in it, you could go to a local dealership and get a ticket and go there like as a ride at a fair. And they would load people in it and drive around a track all day long. They had 2 cars there just in case. And I spoke to a guy who drove the car there for a summer job. I spoke to mechanics who worked on the cars there to keep them running. And Jay Leno has famously said that he first saw a turbine car at the 1964 New York World's Fair at the age of 14. And he said he sat there with his chin on the fence watching the car go around in circles. And his dad came by and goes, "Come on, there's other stuff to see here. Like, how long do you want to sit there and look at that car?" And years later, he got one. So there you go. Bob Blah Blah asks, from the times of Bach and Beethoven, doesn't mention Mozart, up until Frank Sinatra, have there been any notable musical stars? Depends on how you classify or measure that, my friend. Um, Brian, we had check. I'm 6'5". Would I be able to fit in your Cobra? Yes, all day long. I'm 6'2", and I got my Cobra. It's a backdraft Cobra replica, so I had it custom made. And they have an extended foot box that they put in the car, and the footwell is deeper, so that with the seat all the way back, I fit fine. And I've had people in the car as passengers taller than me all day long. Not a problem at all. Christine Gagnon, yakety yak, don't talk back. One hit wonders. Go way back. Jerry Dodge, have you ever been in a bad car accident? No. I've been rear ended a bunch of times. I've never been in an accident that was my fault, but I've been rear ended a whole bunch of times. And it's just, I've never been in a bad car accident, so that's good. Brian Weechick says, I want a Cobra. I'm tall and would want a manual shifter. Mine's got an automatic. I know I get hate for that, but I don't care. You can put a manual in yours. My Viper's a manual. Manuals are only so much fun. Belio DJs, do you remember John Records Landecker, who was the night DJ for WLS in Chicago? I never listened to him, but I'm familiar with him. I've heard of a lot of disc jockeys from around the country just from having worked in radio. Paul Harris, when you do take your cars out, how long or short do you drive them? I drive them as much as I can. Like this past spring, when my Viper hadn't been driven for a while, I got in it and drove it 100 miles. I drove 50 miles out to a restaurant, ate lunch, and drove back. So I mean, I've got no problem putting miles on them. It's just the time and where I'm going to go. Mark Miller, I've been rear-ended 5 times. I believe I've been rear-ended 5 times, also maybe 6. A couple of them are minor. But I mean, the famous one was in 2019 or 2020 when I got rear-ended in a relatively new Ford Explorer, and the entire hatch had to be replaced. It's like an $8,000 or $9,000 replacement. Stuff writer, where do I go to get a ride in the International Harvester Lehto mobile? That'd be a 1962 or 1968 Travelall. I've had people send me stuff, but they're always later. The later ones didn't look as hideous as the ones that my family had. It looks like an old ambulance from like East Germany or something. So, Dan Boyd, manual transmissions do get old quick in traffic. Oh yeah, and your left leg gets sore really quick too. Sub GR has got to check out. Take it easy, and you too, my friend. 858 Bill, shout out if you remember Murray Saul, the Friday Get Down guy on WMMS. WMMS, home of the Buzzard. Fatty Butterpants points out that Enrico Palazzo is the best singer of our time, but of course, he's an opera singer who occasionally sings the national anthem at baseball games. Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo. He also breaks up assassination attempts on the Queen, or at least people think he did. Mark Miller's last accident totaled a 2020 Ford Ranger. Ram 50 V8, that vet recall is interesting. And what's really strange is that people don't even stop to think about stuff. And I've seen so many questions. I'm not going to deal with them, but the Corvette, they've changed the way it's configured now. And I actually saw people posting things going, wait, I don't understand. If you're putting gas in a Corvette and it catches on fire, do you have the trunk open or what? Oh, you mean the frunk? Yeah, I guess some people don't really follow the development or evolution of modern automobility, whatever the noun would be for the realm of automobiles. Automobilia? Something like that. What color was the Travelall? Copper, JR asks. The first one we had was white, which is really, really ugly. The prodigal stranger reminds us the problems of two people don't amount to a hill of beans in this world, but this is our hill, and these are our beans. I watched that movie last week. I also saw Airplane the same week. Unbelievable. Brian Weechek, did you consider any other cars when purchasing the Cobra? Not in that sense, no. My good friend Mark Lieberman is a backdraft dealer. And I was talking to him years ago about these cars, and I said, I want one. But I'm toying with the idea. I've got room for one more car. I'm toying with the idea of possibly getting something. And if I do, it would probably be an older Mopar. I'd really love to own a Hemi, a 426 Hemi. So let's start thinking about that. Mrs. Teresa 1999 is checking in from Geneva, New York, a beautiful part of the world. Ember Miss 69 says that Bruce Dickinson sang the U.S. national anthem at the Steelers Stadium recently. I did not see it. Interesting performance. It was him doing what he does best. However, it was reserved as well. I'll have to check it. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I have to remind you that in the 1968 World Series, I believe it was Jose Feliciano sang the national anthem, Detroit Cardinals World Series, and did a real jazzy version of it. And boy, were people angry. Light my fire, light my fire. he also did light my fire. Bob blah blah. Remember when you took your Viper through the McDonald's? Have you gone to the drive-through in the Cobra? No, I have not. It'd be easier though, because they can hand stuff down. With the Viper, they have to hand stuff in. I do remember going through a different. I've driven my Viper through 3 different drive-throughs now, and I remember one woman behind the counter going, "Oh my gosh, your car is pretty." So that was nice. Oh boy. So IW says the lamest excuse ever for driving an automatic is so much easier to drive in traffic. I never said that was the only excuse. There's other excuses. Hang on a second. Hang on. The Lehto's law phone is ringing. Yes, yes. Heather's working this weekend. So I just wrote her back and said, no problem. No problem. An automatic transmission can shift faster than you can, which is what Ralph Giles told Jay Leno as to why there were no manual transmissions in Hellcats. So I'd be curious on what you drive, IW. Please let me know. I'd be happy to know. JC Comanche likes a 71 GTX. I like the 70. I like the 70, especially if you get it with an air grabber. And they come convertible too. Hemi 70 GTX, an air grabber. Maybe yellow with a black stripe. That'd be cool. Yeah, Padre and Mark Miller both point out that Roseanne Barr did a really bad version of the national anthem. And by bad, I mean it upset people. But it's not that it's that she was it looked like she wasn't planning on singing it in any respectful way. It looked more like she was trying to turn it into a joke. And of course, her whole thing is, I'm a comedian. What do you expect? So, oh. Mark Miller, why do manual transmissions get better gas mileage? Presumably because the torque converter uses up energy. I'm guessing. Are you serious? Oh boy. And you see me doing this. I'm looking to see if I missed anything because there's a whole scroll here. John Michael Karma says manual transmissions are modern day anti-theft devices. I currently have 4 vehicles. Okay. Wait, is 4? 5. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 vehicles, 2 clutches, 2 automatics. You know, I can do either one. Patty Mayo is Puta? Who is the voice that does your intros? That would be Heather, the Canadian robot lady, is a nickname that we gave her. But she's a real person. She's a voiceover artist in Canada, which explains her slight Canadian accent and why we call her the Canadian robot lady as opposed to just the robot lady. But of course, the funny thing is there are people who do not believe she's real. And in fact, I had a guy tell me he was a professional voiceover artist, and he assured me that someone was pulling a fast one on me because that's not a real person. And he wanted me to hire him to do it instead. Oh. Bill McMahon, did you learn to drive a stick shift without a tachometer? Yeah, I've never used a tachometer shift. It's all feel and sound. The first vehicle I learned to drive a stick in was a tow truck. I'm surprised it had any gauges. That thing was ancient. Prodigal Stranger asks, as does somebody else. I actually, one of my Ford Explorers is now owned by my brother. So, Dimebag Coins, Steve, I'm also a voiceover artist. You can hire me and I'd be happy to audition. I think there'd be a revolt if I replaced Heather. And by that, I mean people would unsubscribe. John Michael Karma, after driving my 2 manual trans cars for days, when I get into my auto trans, I sometimes push a ghost clutch. I've never done that, but the funny part is there are a couple of things to remember because I've got a Jeep that's a 5-speed. I've got a Viper that's a 6-speed. And the turn signals are on different sides of the column. On my Cobra, the turn signals on one side, and on the Jeep, it's on the other side. I've occasionally hit my windshield wipers when I mean to turn in the Cobra. So, Dimebag says I could be the Canadian robot man. Trust me, we'd still get complaints. Chris Tope, my first car was a 79 Sunbird. I had an early Monza, which was a lot like one of those cars. Yeah, Belio, Heather forever. Don't make me unsubscribe. People would too. Hang on, how are we doing now? 599,607. Yeah, it's going to happen tomorrow probably. So, Jolan Truce is my 72 Valiant, cost 150 bucks. My 69 Dodge Charger cost $300, but it took 300 bucks worth of paint and work to make it look presentable. So, yeah, Chris Tope, the Monza was a Chevy cousin. Yeah. That was one of those ones that each line had its own version. I just forgot what year it was. It may have been in 80 or 81. I don't remember. I've had a lot of cars. I've had a lot of cars. Johnny Quest, as a retired trucker 5 years later, I'm still trying to push the clutch on my automatics. Oh boy. Keeger for official. Why don't you make any YouTube shorts to promote your main content? A couple reasons. One of which is I hate shorts. I know I never watch them, and I don't want to. I don't want to become that which I hate. But number two, I've put up some shorts. I have two, I think, that went up, and they don't amount to anything. And the only reason you'd make them would be to promote your other stuff. And I don't think that a 1 minute short's going to drive a lot of traffic to 15-minute long videos. But to me, it's not worth my time. I don't think. I have people offering to do it for me all the time. You know, shorts creators. I also get people offering to do my thumbnails for me. As you know, your thumbnails are horrible. I can help you with that. As you know. I've also had people tell me that my videos are doing horribly. Jerry Dodge drives a Nissan. My name's Bill Lamborghini. What do you drive? Toyota. Dustin Carpenter, does Lehto own any shorts? You mean the clothing style? I'm wearing a pair right now. T-shirt and shorts. Shelby's only. Any interesting Supreme Court cases you're following? Not at the exact moment. I'm pretty sure that the Institute for Justice has got a few cases up there right now. But Jay Klein, this morning's video is wild. Yeah. So a young lady's driving along the road one night, and a drunk driver plows into her car and puts her in the hospital. And the passenger of the drunk driver sues her, not the driver of their own car. And I explain how theoretically it's possible, but it's extremely, extremely difficult case to make in front of a jury. Very, very difficult case. Jerry C says you should have this Canadian Roval lady on for an interview. I'd love to actually see her. I did a couple interviews with her. Although I did an interview with her where we were talking. But I think I did another interview with her where we both had cameras. It's such a pain because my studio is not set up for number one, for other people, but number two, she lives about 1,000 miles from me. So Dan Boyd, I did my driver's ed in a Chevette. I did mine in a Gremlin, a green Gremlin. Mark Miller, countersue for negligence. Oh, no, everybody's suing everybody. I guarantee you that she's got the best lawsuit of all against the drunk driver. But the passenger of the drunk driver is saying, hey, look, I've been hurt. And they're probably also suing the driver. I didn't see the lawsuit itself. And so everybody's suing everybody. I guarantee that. So Wade RN says 1975, we had to learn how to drive a stick. Our instructor would make us stop on a steep hill and take off. Oh, that's the tricky part, especially if somebody pulls up right behind you. You know, do you stall it? Do you fry the clutch a little bit? What do you do? Say, did it occur to the passenger to add the liquor and beer company as a defendant? Well, if they came from a bar, you can always sue the bar who overserved somebody, dram shop liability, but we don't know if they came from a bar. Jerry Lass, I was born in 75. I feel less old. Thank you. JR says, take the Cobra for a ride to interview Heather. If I was going that far, I'd take the Viper, just in case it rained or snowed in Canada. Padre, yes, I shot that video moments ago. It goes up tomorrow morning about the RV with no VIN. That is a weird one. I don't understand how a company that big could make a mistake like that. And it's been all over the internet. So MHOA, what is the dram in dram shop? I suspect it's going to be an old English thing. I'm guaranteeing it. Hang on. Dram origin. Hold on. They're giving me the dram for weights and measures. I don't think that's correct. Oh, apparently it does. So it predates that. 15th century Anglo-Latin. It means a small weight or fluid measure linked to ancient coins and a small drink. A fluid dram is 1/8 of a fluid ounce. Hence, dram shop, a small drink of liquor, the hard stuff, as opposed to the stuff you guzzle by the by the quart, by the gallon. Cumulus vapes dram as a measure. Yes, I was curious to know where it came from, though. John Michael Karma stopped behind a guy on an incline. He had a manual transmission, rolled back into me, and he accused me of hitting him. And the sad part is, without witnesses, it's going to be your word against his. He hoped there wasn't too much damage. It's not me 07 the subs for a shorts channel. Well, I don't know if people actually have channels dedicated to their shorts versus their others, but like I have 2 shorts on my channel. You subscribe to my channel, you subscribe to my channel. Mark Miller says it may also have a Scottish origin, dram. Joe Lontrue, I have 2 cams on my truck. You mean dual overhead cams? You're talking about cameras. Just kidding. Belio, what do you think about the Dodge Shelby Chargers or the Shelby CSX cars? Did Carroll just sell out? You could get like a Dodge Omni that had a Shelby package on it, which was largely stickers and emblems and stuff. But occasionally they go, well, yeah, but it's got an intercooler. It increases the power by 3 horsepower. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed by that, but there was only so much they could do at the time with federal regulations on performance and smog. Prodigal Stranger says, why do I have a crown with a number 3 next to it? I have no idea. I don't know if that means that you have posted more than anybody else here except for 2 people. I don't know. Leon Anders, I was listening to 94.7 the other day. For about 45 seconds, they had dead air. And then a song played for about 20 seconds and played another song right after. No explanation. Are you talking about not 94.7 WCSX in Detroit, are you? But that sounds like a malfunction of the software that plays the music. And that's the sad part is a lot of radio stations now don't have live disc jockeys anymore. They voice track, and there's a computer that takes their voice track parts and sticks them in and plays the music. And I've been driving along before and heard a station completely malfunction and go off the rails. And it's sad, but that's what's happening right now. Yeah, it's not me 07. Dodge Omni GLHS. GLHS. Joel Jensen, Blue October is coming to Denver. If you like rock music, it's hard to classify them because they do have a slightly pop leaning, but they're not pop music. They have a slightly different sound. They're from Texas. I like Blue October a lot. I've seen them 4 or 5 times. I'm going to see them again this year. I love Blue October. It's my favorite band that's currently touring that I've seen more than once. So Zafar Syed says, correction, my driver's ed was in an 86 or 87 4-door Nova. Nova. Okay. Are you talking about the newer Nova? The one that was foreign in origin with respect to some of its manufacturing? because I know they revived the nameplate at one point in time. Oh, almost spilled. Sorry. Didn't mean to yelp like that right in the microphone. Jay Klein says the crown is your ranking in the chats. Tap the button at the top. It shows the number, and you'll see where you're ranked, where you are ranked. Dustin Carpenter, Buick Skylark GS Stage 1, go fast to class. My brother had a Grand Sport Skylark Stage 1 convertible, and it was a very rare car. Very, very cool car. Hang on. A lot of torque in that car. Excuse me, I don't have a mute button. Mark Miller, I think I drove a K car for a driver's ed. Would it be a nicer Reliant automobile? Ram 50 V8. I once listened to WLRW get stuck in a loop for hours on her internet feed. How big was the loop? Hang on. I should get a cough button. Dan Boyd, I knew the 80s Le Mans was Daewoo, but thought the 80s Nova was Toyota. Toyota? I don't know. I don't know. James Chisholm says the Pontiac Le Mans was a Daewoo. Or Daewoo? Daewoo? I don't know. It's not me 07. My brother also had a 72 Buick Skylark GS hardtop. The car was fun to drive. My dad hated it. So when my brother had his Grand Sport Stage 1 Skylark convertible, he bought another Skylark for parts, and I forgot what he needed off of it, but he lived in California at the time. So he just turned that into his daily driver. And he was goofing around one day, and he broke the frame. We were just talking about that the other day. And he was trying to pull some stunt like you might see on a Starsky and Hutch or, you know, Dukes of Hazzard. And he skidded into a parking lot, and he hit the curb, and the car jumped the curb, and he heard something crack. And he said from that point forward, the car would do this down the road, and he had to get rid of it. So Jerry Dodge, a colleague of mine, owns a Saab, only person I know to ever own one. Saab was briefly owned by General Motors. And there was a time when if you were an employee of General Motors and you got an employee discount, you could use it to buy a Saab. And Saabs at one point in time were very, very well-built cars. It's a company that makes airplanes, so they know how to build something good if they want to. It's not me, 07. My friend's hot sister had a Saab in the 2000s. It was the mid 90s. It's amazing how we remember things like that, don't you? You know, isn't it? When I worked at the gas station, we had certain customers, and we had, we had a guy who came in, and no matter what, he always got $5 worth of gas. $5, $5. We called him Mr. $5. Hey, Mr. $5 is here. You go out $5. We had another woman who came in. I don't know if I should tell this story. I'm going to tell it. Worked at the gas station, and we weren't supposed to take checks, personal checks, unless we knew the person so well that check bounce, almost like we were vouching for them. But we took checks from some customers, and I remember a couple times somebody come in and go, I write checks all the time, and I turn to somebody else. Do they? And yeah, they're good. They're good. And this one woman would come in, and nobody liked her because she always say she was very short with people. She just snip at you. Fill it. And then she pulled out her checkbook, and none of us liked her. None of us liked her at all. So she pulled out her checkbook, and we used to mess with her. And we'd tell her we needed 3 pieces of ID. So she'd give you her driver's license, and you flip the check over, and you start writing on the back her driver's license number. I need some more. And she'd give you like a credit card. You'd write the credit card number out. Right. And every single time she came in, we make her do that. And she kept coming back for more. And at one point in time, she had this really short haircut, like Susan Powder, if you know who that is. But she had her hair bleached, like a really, really blood, like almost her hair is almost this color. And somebody, it may have been me, but somebody nicknamed her tennis ball head because her head looked like a tennis ball. And so I would always write in the back of her check all the 3 pieces of identification. I write TBH. I always wondered if she ever looked at that and said, what does TBH mean? But she never asked. But anyways, yeah. So there you go. We're talking about 1979, 78, harassing customers at the gas station. Zafar said, back in the day, $5 to almost have a tank. Well, no, back then we're talking about 6 or 7 gallons, maybe. Mexican speculate. Now it means to be honest. Belio, Susan Powder, stop the insanity. Yes, that's her. That's her. Nick Primo, 59 cents a gallon. There were price wars, gas wars on Woodward Avenue back in the 60s where you'd see it at 25 or 29 cents a gallon. Crazy. But most of those gas stations made their money on service. There was a time when within 1 mile of my parents' house, there were like 10 service stations. And now none of them are service stations. They all turned into little supermarkets. Louis Browning points out that tennis balls are made by a company called Head. So the HTB, Head tennis balls. DePaul 31 remembers 33 cents a gallon when he started driving. Yeah, I remember when gas hit $1 a gallon. I almost had a heart attack. It's the big one. It's the big $1 a gallon. Never thought we'd survive that. Yeah, Dan Boyd, we talked about the tennis ball cannons last week and the potato cannons. Tennis ball cannons, you take 2 of the containers, you cut the bottom out of one, attach the top of the other, seal it, and then put a hole in the bottom, and you put some flammable in there, and you drop in the tennis ball and you light it, and if it poofs just right, you can launch a tennis ball. Joe on True here, $1 is it $1.49 a liter, or what's the 149? Where is here? I forgot. Canada? Yeah, I remember going to Canada and not being able to do the conversion because it's liters versus gallons. So, blah, blah, blah. Here in Cincinnati, we just had a storm blow through and my yard is full of leaves now. It's definitely the start of fall. Yeah, we had some heavy rain this morning, but I don't see a lot of leaves in the ground just yet. But any day now, it's going to happen. It's going to be like flip a switch and all the leaves just go boom down to the ground. Belio, I remember being sent to the gas station with 2 quarters to get a gallon of gas. At the time, it was 29.9 cents a gallon. I remember walking to the gas station to get a gallon of gas for the lawnmower. Joe on True, Nova Scotia in Canada, of course. Jay Klein, growing up in the sticks, the gas station could charge whatever they wanted. That's the thing. You roll up, you got no gas, you gotta pay whatever they're charging. Solid Pixel remembers the 1 stickers they had to put on because the old pumps couldn't show prices over 99 cents. I remember that too. I remember that when they went to $1, some of the old pumps, because they were mechanical, they weren't digital, had no ability to have the third digit on the left. So of course they got the 0.9 on the right, but we're talking about 99 cents versus $1, and that became a real problem. Richard Terhune, there used to be a gas station and a bank on every corner. Yeah, so at the end of my parents' street, if you got the end, you could look over and see one gas station, and then across the street was another gas station. That's when I worked at, and next door to that gas station was a bank. And you went up the road a quarter mile, half mile, and then there was two gas stations facing each other at that corner. And if you went down Woodward Avenue, like say 14 or 13 mile, there'd be gas stations on almost every corner. You'd see an intersection with four gas stations on the corners. And they got away with it because many of them are doing service. Back then, you'd go to a gas station for a water pump or a starter or oil change, things of that nature. So, Jerry Dodge here in Kalamazoo, the rain brought down a bunch of brown pine needles this morning. Just glad we had rain after this drought. Yeah, we've been having a drought here in Michigan. It has hardly rained at all. I'm glad we got the rain. I wish we got a little more. I was out mowing my yard day before yesterday, and there's a spot between two pine trees I've been looking at. And I said, I think I can get my mower through there. A tractor. I drove it through, and I'm pushing things out of the way, and I got it through. And at the other side, of course, I'm covered in pine needles. So had to shake myself off before I came inside. Christine Gagnon points out that $1 in 2000 is $1.88 in 2025 buying power equivalent. Dan Boyd, I miss gas stations with service bays. Yeah, 123 EZD reminds us that you can go liters to gallons at roughly 4 liters to a gallon, roughly, if you're just trying to do the math in your head. What I've always liked is you go to Canada and you buy something with a $20 bill and you get like $25 back in change. Sometimes. And now you got all this Canadian currency. So. James Chisholm, we used to get around the road tax by buying fuel at the marina. And you can also, there's that recreation fuel that doesn't have road tax on it. Gordon 861 says, remember the U.S. uses a different gallon as opposed to whatever they might be using elsewhere. Tim Nossum, are you following the Newmar RV's no VIN claims? Yes, I am. I shot a video. It'll go up tomorrow. But those of you who don't know, a couple in Canada dropped over $1 million on a Newmar RV. They tried to bring it to America to sell it to a buyer in Arizona. They got stopped at the border because the paperwork didn't make sense. And the reason it didn't make sense is the RV doesn't apparently have a vehicle identification number in a place that's easily located or where it belongs according to law. And so they were basically told to take this thing back to Canada. So I'm simplifying here, okay? The guy calls the manufacturers, I'm having trouble with this. And the guy goes, I found a buyer for you in Florida. Just get it to Florida. You'll be okay. So trying to cross the border at Buffalo, the vehicle had been flagged, meaning they wouldn't let it in the U.S. I believe they seized it. And then they said it's going to be a $600,000 fine for trying to smuggle this RV into America that's got no VIN on it. Ken Keller's reminding us of the imperial gallon versus the other gallon. And so 123 EZD, we're talking about rough estimate. Yeah, rough estimation. It's like the old rule of thumb. Okay. Dan Boyd, so did they put any kind of data plate or ID tag? Apparently there's tags and stickers and stuff, but it's unclear. I mean, the federal law says you have to have a non-tamperable permanent plate or something on it. And so, like, for instance, the chassis manufacturer, I think they used the word etching, but they marked the chassis, but it was only part of the VIN, not the whole thing. So David Phillips, why the 0.9? It's one of those weird customs they started a long, long time ago. Mark Miller, I've heard that Canadian-built vehicles are void of warranty in the U.S. Is that right? It can be. I've heard of that before. I'd be very leery about buying a late model car from Canada unless I had for certain some kind of guarantee that the warranty would transfer, if that's something I was banking on. David Peterson's heading out for work. Beware of low-flying owls, bears, and party girls. And also woodchucks, of course. Dan Boyd, yes. So VIN tags, vehicle identification number tags, are often made out of metal and they're riveted in place. And the rivets are unusual. They're not typical rivets. And so if you ever see a VIN tag that looks like it's been replaced, you can usually tell. They look like they've been replaced. And you gotta be real careful. And so a lot of vehicles with cloned VINs have been done by somebody who's got access to one of those tools. But it's a very serious issue. And so it's kind of strange. Martian Murray, you visit Canada often. Usually a few times a year. I haven't been to British Columbia or Nova Scotia, but I've been in Ontario many, many, many times. Jerry Last, you think they'll ever replace VIN numbers with QR codes? And we're both going to get in trouble for saying VIN numbers, but a QR code. The problem with that is I can't look at it and decipher it with my eyes, and so theoretically, somebody can look at a VIN and decode it. So I don't understand your question. Two left thumbs. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jerry Dodge reminds us that in the original Gone in 60 Seconds, one of the plot points was replacing VINs on wrecked vehicles, vice versa, clones. Marine Bean 420 says most vehicles have a second location. It's more than that. Depends on the car. Some of them have many. But even going back to the 60s, there's usually two locations or even three. I can tell you right now that I had a client who bought a cloned Z28 Camaro, and the VIN was based the A pillar, stamped into the firewall, stamped into one of the inside of the fender skirts or the fender shrouds, whatever you want to call it. But it was in three places on that car. Quite often, if a car's got a frame, it'll be stamped into the frame. Mexican Spec says he will be going live today at 2 p.m. Pacific time. 2 p.m. Pacific time. Showstrom says, I think Two Leftums are trying to see if you use American or British spelling or speaking. Examples would be caramel versus caramel, aluminum versus aluminium, and so on. Oh, okay. Daniel says the engine block is also etched with a VIN. In some vehicles, yes. And of course, then when they talk about numbers matching on a car, that's where you're going to be looking to see if the VIN matches. Although it won't always be the entire VIN. I've seen them in old cars where it's a portion of the VIN, like the last six or something. Jay Klein says it just dropped from 87 degrees to 67 degrees in 15 minutes in Cincinnati. I wonder if Bob Loblock can confirm that, and if so, that might mean you got some weather coming. Two Left Thumb says you say you're weary quite often, but sound like you're wary. I say I'm weary. I sometimes grow weary. I was unaware that I said that. Matt Howard, thanks, Steve, for all the entertainment and education. Thank you. Oh, and Greg Lehto. I only laugh because people are going to go, are you guys related? Greg Lehto points out that the VIN can also be written into the multiple ECUs, such as the HVAC and BCM. So if you have a modern vehicle and you need to find the VIN. And for some odd reason, you can't read the one in the A pillar, or you want to make sure these things all match. You might be able to find your VIN in one of those electronic mystery boxes in your vehicle. And by the way, Greg, I got to shoot you a note later on. I got a computer question for you. Scott Summers. So did the Laguna brothers actually find something at Oak Island? Yeah, there's a big hole out there, and they're all looking into it. Bob Loblaw says, I had a cataract surgery on Monday, and this week is the first time I've been able to see Ben in years. Get your eyes checked, people. It's worth it. Jerry Dodge, 75 degrees here in Kalamazoo. I show 67 degrees. I'm a little southeast Michigan. Showstrom says, could you tell me your thoughts on an online course being taught by a professor who died a year and a half ago? I think their widow gets checks for it. That's an interesting thing because, who owns the intellectual property? And also, like, who grades the tests and so on? I mean, somebody's got to be teaching that class besides the dead guy, right? Mexican Spec points out that you can't trust the BCM as they could have been replaced along the way. Oh, yeah, of course not. We're not saying that anything is carved in stone, but, if you're checking all these things and they all match, it does kind of go the way you want it to be. Yeah, Ram 50 V8 just loves doing a vehicle scan when VIN mismatch pops up. Joanne True says, I visited Oak Island in the 70s. Wow. I remember reading about it when I was a little kid, but Ember Miss 69 says 84 in my section of Northwest Ohio. So that's some serious weather rolling through if it's that big of a temperature drop from one area to the next. Jerry Dodge was driving through Three Oaks, Michigan, which is kind of in the same general direction as Three Rivers. We like things in threes here in Michigan. And I saw an old lady driving a bat car, a black car decked out with Batman decals and such. What type of car was it? That wasn't like the Batmobile, was it? Just a black car with stuff? Blah, blah, blah. What is a VIN Wiki? Well, so Ed Bolian was involved in the car business for a while. He sold cars, and he was getting involved in car culture. And he came up with an idea to launch an app that would allow you to look cars up by VIN, and it'd be crowdsourced like Wikipedia. And he called it VIN Wiki, and that became his app. And he started doing videos to promote the app, and it turned into a channel that swallowed the original purpose. Much like Lehto's Law was originally just videos I did of my podcast, and now people go, "Well, you got a podcast too?" I've always had one. It's just it's nothing compared to the YouTube channel. T Snowy 23. Hi, Steve. Hey, chat. It's starting to get nice here in Vegas. That is the weather. Good. Cool. Dan Boyd says the Batmobile was a Mercury. You mean the original one? Like the base model? Joel Jensen, callers are turning here in the Colorado high country. Jerry Dodge says it was not a Batmobile, just a basic sedan where someone put money into it to make it Batman themed. It was an old lady, maybe 80, driving it. You wonder if it's her car or somebody else did it and she got the car. Like, what? Weird. Oh, I've got a deer trotting. I got deer out here all the time. What are they up to? Just strolling through. Hey, John N. Jr. is checking in live in Corpus Christi, Texas. It's good to hear. can't rightly turn this camera around for you, but I can show you when I say I've got deer out there. There we go. Hang on. What's the deal with the glare? Hang on. Well, never mind. Some days I hold the camera up and it works, and some days it doesn't. What can I tell you? Randy Jones, I saw a huge groundhog yesterday. Those things are big. I mean, they can get big, and they always look goofy to me because most animals in the wild seem to be like, I don't know, sleek or muscular or something. And I get the impression that woodchucks or groundhogs are just balls of blubber with legs. Just, I don't know why I think that. It seems that way. Mark 324's got a big groundhog living under his garage. Yeah, the problem is once they tunnel underneath something, now you've got a void underneath your garage, and of course that can fill with water. They can tunnel it out. More stuff can get in there. It's never good. Vinny Sluga, good morning, Steve. Sorry I'm late. Dan Boyd, I'd always thought I heard it was a Mercury. No, it was a Lincoln show car. And um, George Barris had a very, very short window of time to put it together. And so he went with a car that he knew he could get his hands on, and he modified it, and that became the car. And of course, there's replicas being made now by people like Fiberglass Freaks and so on. Mark Rakeup. So, um, Jay Klein, the fawns around here are losing their spots. Yeah, all the fawns around here are as well. Um, Brian Weachek, if you hiked Sleeping Bear Dunes, $3,000 fine if you need to be rescued. I've hiked them many times, but I've always stuck to the parts that you're allowed to hike. And there's sand dune portions that you can jump on and climb on and roll around in, but there's portions they tell you to avoid because you ain't coming back up if you go down that side. uh, Lion zookeeper had to evict a groundhog from under his deck, buried fencing to deter them in the future. Dan Boyd took me forever to identify the GTO and the Monkey Mobile. I've seen a couple replicas of the Monkey Mobile that are done very, very well, but I don't think they're real. Jerry Dodge, are you a Knight Rider fan? No, I'm familiar with it though. There's a YouTube channel where they've recovered a couple kit cars and the screen used semi they've been restoring. Interesting. I was at an 80s fest in Frankenmuth, Michigan, where they celebrate all things 80s. And out in the lobby, they had a car that looked like Kit. I don't think it's a real one, but didn't take a lot to make a car look like Kit from the outside. Belios, the Batmobile wasn't a real turbine car? No, it was not. The weird part was they always referred to it as a turbine car, and then it had flames shooting out the back, which I'm not quite sure how that would work. Dan Boyd concurs that the 80s were in fact pretty awesome. I believe that's the word we use to describe them too. Vinny Sluga, have you ever watched the series 24? I believe I have. It's where the guy has a really bad day and it's happened more than once, but yes. Mustang MGO5 says Frankenmuth always has something going on. Great place. Dustin Carpenter says the Futura was in the Debbie Reynolds film. It started with a kiss in 1959. Oh, yeah, Prodigal Stranger reminds us that the Batmobile also had atomic batteries. Atomic batteries. Why do you need atomic batteries and a turbine? That's what I want to know. Jay Klein had a chipmunk living under his front porch, but hydraulic concrete was pumped into it this summer. So we suspect he's moved on. Um, I've had people tell me that chipmunks and red squirrels, the little red squirrels, can be very, very destructive if they get in the wrong places. I've said before, I have no problem with animals on my property. I've got more animals and more types of animals than most people can even imagine. Okay. As long as they stay away from and outside of my house. I encounter mice, field mice, or meadow voles, little mice this big, running around my property all day long. I don't care. I got snakes, big garter snakes all over the place. I don't care. Ground chucks, wood chucks, groundhogs, what do you call them? Got them all over the place too. But as long as they need a buffer zone, they need to stay way, way far away from my house. So yeah, Jay Klein says that chipmunk now could be a permanent part of the porch. Years from now, when they excavate, I'm talking about thousands of years from now, they're going to go, look at this person. He entombed a chipmunk under the porch of his house, much like the mummies in Egypt. So he must have worshipped this chipmunk to have built a house around it. Janice Ellery is saying, hiya, with the, I'm guessing it's a cat of some sort. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, friend. Thank you very much. Bob Kerflugen, rats make good pets. I hear they're smart too. So, Ram 50V8's got cats who hunt, including snakes. Yeah, I've seen cats go after snakes before. I know that I've also seen a lot of funny videos of cats reacting to snakes. That's a good reaction video for you. Cats reacting to snakes. Mexican specs, it could be a fox. Showstrom agrees, fox. Interesting. I've also got foxes on my property. I don't see them as often as I see the coyotes, which is self-explanatory because the foxes and the coyotes do not get along. So the coyotes kind of push them out. Bob blah blah once shot a woodchuck in his pajamas. How he got in there, I'll never know. Mark Miller says, I think, but not sure, the cat's reaction time is probably 3 times faster than a snake. Oh, it probably is, but you can find videos on YouTube of people putting things near cats that look like snakes, and they turn and they freak out. And it's built into their reaction part of their brain that the second you see a snake, you exit as quickly as you can. Ian Gotti says Russian blues are the best mousers. What about the Norwegian blue? It's got lovely plumage. Gibbers Crabs says you've done past land issues. There's an interesting outdoor life article titled 7 Sneaky Ways Landowners Block Access to Public Lands. Interesting. I've not seen it. I can tell you one of the most common things they do is they put up signs implying that it's not public. They do that a lot in California, where they'll put up signs saying like no parking, right near the place where you'd park to get to the beach. So Jay Klein, my Siberian Huskies eat snakes and the lizards we have. The youngest also digs up moles. Are the Huskies diggers? I know some dogs just naturally dig. They like to dig. And so I suspect if a dog likes to dig and sees a mole hole, they might go into it. Ram 50 V8 says I have a video on my channel where Big Kitty brought me a snake still alive. 123 EZD says that the Norwegian blue is too busy pining for the fjords to mouse properly. I have to tell you, I went to the Renaissance Festival yesterday. Where you'd expect me to be on a Saturday. And I was walking around, and there's all kinds of people out there in different costumes and whatnot. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make any sense at all. And I actually saw three guys go by dressed as the Spanish Inquisition. I was going to walk over and go, I was expecting you guys, but I figured they probably heard that 100 times. But I was just standing there, and a guy came by and he goes, "You're Steve Lehto." And I go, "Yes, I am." He turns to his wife, he goes, "Look." And she goes, "Steve Lehto." And they both turn to their daughter and go, "This is Steve Lehto." And apparently the whole family watches me. And I'm like, "Wow, nice meeting you all." We talked for 5-10 minutes. It's a lot of fun. But the Spanish Inquisition was at the Renaissance Festival. So Randy Jones, what's the deal with cats and cucumbers? That's the thing that you often see them placing. A cucumber or anything roughly that shape. And I think it has to do with lizards and snakes. I could be wrong about that. Chris Tope says there's only 33 seconds left in the first half, but Minnesota is beating Cincinnati 31-3. Okay. Richard Terhune says, yes, Huskies are diggers. They are diggers. I mean, I know they're runners. They love to run. They've got energy. They have one speed and it's on full speed. Janice Ellery's got an African spur tortoise. Okay. Chief FC says, I love the Bristol Renaissance Fair in Bristol, Wisconsin. Lion Zookeeper, nobody expects Steve Lehto. MHOA, did you ask him to like and subscribe? No, I didn't. I probably should have. I did give the guy my card, and I said, here's my card. More of a souvenir kind of thing. Let's see how we're doing on subscribers, by the way. This is the only time I give the guy my card, and I said, here's my card. More of a souvenir kind of thing. Let's see how we're doing on subscribers, by the way. This is the only time I'm ever to do this. 599, 612. So we need 388 subscribers to hit 600,000 on my channel. Jay Klein, Huskies don't dig, they excavate. John Michael Karma, I had a turtle, I named him Godot. See, that's a thinking man's joke. Oh my God, Shoy, I had a Great Pyrenees, and she lived digging out her sleeping spots. Are you talking about in the ground? Because the Great Pyrenees is a very large dog. I knew somebody who rescued them, and she had 3 of them at one time, and it was like stepping over a cow. I mean, they're easier to walk around than step over when they're laying down. The Prodigal Stranger high school band turned me off to football. Dan, but I like when Huskies whine. There are some dogs, not just Huskies. I've seen Cocker Spaniels that would whine or howl and make weird noises and stuff. And my coyotes, by the way, I've got coyotes in my property. They go through a phase in the spring where they whine and howl, and it's freaky sounding. So Ram 50 V8, could you imagine someone much younger doing math like that in their head? Well, addition and subtraction is not that difficult, but it's the multiplication or being able to do long division with a pencil and paper. Belio, would it count if I unsubscribe and then resub? Unfortunately, no, that would not help me. Oh, boy. Jerry Dodge, I wish I had a Great Dane, but my cat hates dogs. Plus, I don't have a yard to let it run in. Well, and here's the thing. People have asked me why I don't have dogs now. And one of the reasons is that I actually have, I mentioned all the animals on my property, and I've got ticks on my property, deer ticks. And, I look out for them. I know how to look out for them, but I also don't go rolling around in the bushes. And you can't tell a dog, don't chase that rabbit. Don't chase that deer. Don't chase that fox. Don't chase that coyote. Don't chase that snake. Don't chase, And so it'd be nigh onto impossible. I grow weary of these things. It'd be impossible to tell the dog to stay out of the bushes And I had Shelties who were long-haired dogs, and so checking them for ticks would become like a thrice daily experience. So no. Johnny Z. Bradley, my dogs howl like the famous beagle Buddy Mercury. I am McNathan. I've been a faithful subscriber since the original episode days. I mean, when they were numbered, like episode 12, episode 8, that kind of thing. Mexican spec, Steve, get a few chickens. I would need more than a few, but the problem is the coyotes would eat them. Jay Klein, my Huskies are big talkers, smart mouths sometimes. Ram 50 V8, I remember my little brother climbing up on a willow tree and coming down covered with ticks. Really? Because ticks are weird animals. They don't fly. They actually don't even jump. They crawl, and they often climb up a plant or a blade of grass, and they do this thing where they hang onto their back legs and they just reach out. They call it questing, which is something you think might happen in the Middle Ages, but and they do this until somebody comes by and they grab onto an animal or a person. And I haven't had much trouble personally with them because I watched for them, but I found them on me before. And I was riding around my ATV 2 summers ago now, and I was just about to get off, and I looked down, and there's a tick right on my leg, just and of course I knock it off. But if I didn't catch it at the time, you know, Tim Nossman, could you spray for ticks to keep them out of the bushes and trees? Um, Not really, because number one, I've got too much foliage on the one hand, and then also I hate to do stuff like that because if you're spraying some kind of insecticide or pesticide, you're gonna be killing other stuff too. And so right now, the only thing I do that's unnatural is I put down fertilizer trying to get the grass to grow. But other than that, Jay Klein, one of my Huskies, is named Thor because he's scared of thunder. It's worked out that way. Ram 50 V8 says it was a weeping willow and it's loaded with ticks. But did the ticks climb into the up the trunk and down, or did the branches drag on the ground? Glenn Lego's got a neighbor who's got a parrot. That thing is a loudmouth. Sounds like someone's screaming. James Chamelix says instead of chickens, try getting roadrunners. Yeah, Dan Boyd, ticks are a menace. Yeah, because of Lyme disease. And I've known people in Michigan who've been bitten and gotten Lyme disease. Now, luckily, they've got stuff for it. Now, if you catch it soon enough, it's not a problem. But you still worry about it. But you worry about fleas and ticks and heartworm and all that stuff. And you got to really, really, watch. Yeah, Josh Holman, Roadrunners might not like the cold weather. Yeah, how do they do in snow? Oh, boy. Yeah, Christine Gagnon says rodenticide kills owls. Rodenticide. See, regicide is if you kill the king. Rodenticide is if you kill a rodent. He was convicted of rodenticide, Your Honor. Rodenticide. But of course, that's the thing. So you kill one thing and something else eats it. Now they got poison in their system, and so. Martian Martian Murray points out that coyotes can't actually even catch the roadrunners, at least not in the cartoons. Oh, Jerry Dodge, the apartments where I live have kids literally screaming all day long. And there's a courtyard of 3-story brick buildings where it echoes. Oh boy. That's the thing, is that there's parents whose kids are screaming like, "Get out of the house, get out of the apartment, go scream outside." And it's like, can't you teach your kids not to scream? Like, really? Yeah, Showstrom asks, is Lyme disease the one that makes meat taste rancid? I've heard that as a side effect. Can you imagine? A little thing this big bites you, and later on you can't enjoy filet mignon. Oh boy. Johnny Z. Frattle, did you ever burn cattails? I like the smell of the smoke. No. We used to take them and cut them and throw them like they're hand grenades. Pretend they were potato mashers. But everybody sees different things when they're playing. Belio says, speaking of Mopars, I love the sense of humor when the Roadrunner car had the meep horns. Yeah, and they licensed all that. You if you look closely at the Roadrunner and Superbird insignias, you'll see where it goes licensing, and it has the licensing reference there because they had to, because they paid for it, but they also had to remind people that they didn't just decide to do it. They actually paid for it. Mary Rabicki says they now have rodent birth control. I'm using it to reduce the numbers. We have owls and raptors. Yeah, see, what you do is you show them movies about the perils of teenage pregnancy, and then suggest to them that abstinence is the cure. And if you can reach, oh, you're talking about probably drugs, right? Lion Zookeeper is a Texas Lone Star tick, the one with the meat allergy. There's a bunch of different ticks, and I believe the Texas Lone Star tick has escaped the state. Thank you very much. Stop spamming them. In the South, we use magnolia cones for hand grenades. Oh, we used to have apple fights. We had a huge apple tree in our backyard, and the apples were gross. We never sprayed it. It was an oversized, humongous apple tree. We had to rake up the apples, and we found it was more fun to throw them at each other. And also, we have batting practice with the apples. So you get a baseball bat, and then somebody throw the apple, and you whack it, and you as soon as you hit it, it just whoosh, it vaporizes, more or less. Oh, Jerry Dodge was a kid. My neighbors down the street across from each other used to have firework fights between their houses, and they'd pay each other for whatever damage they made. My friends and I at the gas station one Sunday got in a gumball fight with the people across the street. We were using the slingshots, and we were getting gumballs out of the Kiwanis gumball machine, which is like a penny a piece, and shooting them. But we wouldn't do it when they had customers, and they honored our customers too. As soon as the customers were gone, boom, 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 shooting gumballs back and forth across the street. Belio says they could also show the mice reefer madness to discourage them from smoking, especially because the smoking could lead to them, you know, reproducing, which we don't want them to do that either. DePaul, horse chestnut fights. Yeah, you still got the chestnut trees around. I actually know where some are, but they're much less common. Blah, 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 cherry bombs and wrist rockets. I did smoke bombs with wrist rocket. Never did cherry bombs. I always fear that I'd do something wrong or the rubber would snap or something. So Jerry Lass, as being part of the first year DARE program, actually encouraged drug use in a roundabout way. Oh, Janice Ellery, the horse chestnut spikes hurt. You got to take them out of that big, thick wrapping and throw. I mean, if you're throwing the whole thing, that would hurt. You could take an eye out with that. Oh, bottle rocket fights. Yeah, bottle rockets are always fun. It's more the unpredictability of it. I was up north years ago with some friends who brought fireworks back when they were still illegal in Michigan, but you could buy them elsewhere. And we had a bonfire going. We were lighting firecrackers one at a time. We realized we'd be there all night. So we just took everything and threw it in the fire at once. Bottle rockets shooting off and firecrackers, and occasionally a bottle rocket come out, like, hit you in the face or something, Nobody got hurt, but it was a lot of fun. It was noisy too. So, the next day we came by the spot, and it looked like a explosion in a fireworks factory, which is what you might expect, so. Jerry Dodge says, "I have a Dare T-shirt I bought when I was really high. It's a triple X. Now I feel like sending it to Steve." And the prodigal stranger reminds us that Steve is a double X. If it's a small triple X, I'd like to have it. If it's too big that I can't wear it, make the judgment call on that. So, Dustin Carpenter's Buick had a rare color in 2001 called dark chestnut, near black orange. Weird. Sounds interesting, but you never know. Yeah, Jerry Dodge, the family used to go down 131 to Indiana from Michigan, and fireworks shop there was just across the border. There was a bunch of fireworks shops that probably got so bummed out when Michigan legalized them. So, yeah, Tim Nosmus says you can also show the squirrels old shop class videos that remind them of the dangers of horsing around. Wood shop. Sad part is that I went by my old high school years ago, and they'd already replaced the wood shop with a computer skills class. And I thought they'd be doing that in the old typing class, but I'm not sure. For all I know, they still had typing or keyboarding, as they call it these days. Showstrom, would you rather have a Lone Star tick or a woodchuck loose in your garage? Oh, the Lone Star tick, because the odds of him getting on me not finding out would be pretty slim. Worse is, which would you rather have in your pants, a Lone Star tick or a woodchuck? Because that's a toss-up. Christine Gagnon, my mother put chestnuts in the oven because of the Christmas song, "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire," and they blew up like popcorn balls, which was like buckshot or grenades, and then the chimney literally fell off of the roof onto the ground. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how you cook chestnuts. There's probably a way to do it, but I can see something like that happening. So yeah. Toad Walker knew somebody whose friend was a 5X. Do they even make 5X commonly? I've seen double and triple. I've seen triple X lately at a few places regarding t-shirt size. Jerry Last was a 4X tall a year ago, but I lost 105 pounds, so now I'm wearing my old 3X t-shirts. 3X. Daniel Kester, if you wondered how Star is these days, referring to the horse that I shot the video about on my backup channel. I do have a second channel, by the way, and I told the story about how there's a horse in my front yard one day, and I got a really angry note from somebody who goes, "That's not a horse, that's a pony." And if you look up pony in the dictionary, it goes a small horse. However, I digress. Dustin Carpenter. Gary Larson made a cartoon about birds that couldn't sing, having to take wood shop. I spoke to the owner of Star a few months ago, and Star's still hanging in there. Don't know how old Star is. I'll have to ask next time. Matt at War, didn't they get the kids in Dare to snitch on their family? Probably. It was probably a government-run operation like the CIA or something. Andy New York suggests that you cut the chestnuts open before you roast them. Aviva Rabinowitz says the same thing. It's cut an X in the chestnuts before you roast them. Mark Miller used to weigh 450, paid a lot of money for clothing, having to buy specialty clothing, I'm guessing, right? Luckily, I lost about half the weight since then. Romark 85 says, perhaps your mother was drinking a little bit too much wassail. Here we come, a wassailing among the leaves so green. Wild Bill 57, 6 foot tall, 185, had to buy a 4X helmet, skinny body, fat head. It's all that brain, right? Belio in junior high had a semester of wood shop and then a semester of pottery. Did pottery and art class, but I actually had a wood shop class. What are you going to do? Standard deviation says you could have talked to Star herself, but she was a little hoarse. Ba-dum-bump. No, she's a pony. I don't understand people who don't understand that there are subgroups among larger groups. And it reminds me of the video I did once where I talked about a Bronco, and somebody goes, "You're wrong. It's a Bronco sport." And I said, "Well, but it's a Bronco." "No, it's a Bronco sport." And I said, "Yeah, but a Bronco sport is a type of Bronco." "No, it's not." Well, if you went to the Ford page, there's a Ford page where you clicked on Bronco, and it pulled up a page and it goes, "We make the Bronco in two models, the Bronco and the Bronco Sport." Now, I understand they're different, but they're both Broncos. And so it's kind of like if I said, "Well, this is a camera." "No, it's a phone." It, it has a camera in it, though. It's still a phone. No, but it is a camera. Like, you need a camera? Here, I got this. That's a phone. It's not a camera. Something can be more than one thing, or there can be a general and more specific. Perhaps calling it a pony would have helped some people go, "I wonder how big that horse was," except I showed photographs. So anyway, and James Chisholm, don't forget the Bronco too. Oh boy. Yeah, Dustin Carpenter says the Jeep Compass and the Wrangler are both Jeeps. No, it's a Wrangler. And what's weird is I used to assume all these people were just messing with me, and I realized no, some of them, it's I'm not going to call them serious, but some of them actually believe what they're saying and they think it's correct. And it's not. So there you go. Anyway, we've been doing this for over 2 hours. Oh, by the way, LGRFBS did check in a moment ago. I wanted to acknowledge the check in because I believe checking in from Sweden asking, "Is all good?" Yes, all is good, but the show is ending now. So I'm going to thank everybody for being here. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please consider it because right now I'm at 599,615 subscribers. So I only need 380 some odd to get to 600,000. I'm getting there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. Talk to you later. Bye bye.